Hello. Once again, welcome to Grace in Motion Ministries. I'm Charles Womack, and I'm happy to be here. Not only that, I want to thank you all for once again allowing us into the privacies of your homes. Of course, as we always share, we just believe that God's grace is one of the greatest blessings that He's ever given to us. Because if it wasn't for the grace of God, we all have to ask ourselves, where would I be? Now, I also believe that we are in the midst of a spiritual warfare. And if we're in the midst of a warfare, then truly we must be warriors. That's the objective, as is always the objective when we're dealing and communicating and sharing with you the concept of Christian heroes. We do look for heroes all over the place, but if we look just in our own neighborhood, in our own homes, in our own schools, mind you, you will find the heroes. I am so proud today to share with you all a very special guest. Actually, I've been trying to track this great brother down for the longest, but of course, because of what God has called him to do, the mission He has given to him, the responsibilities, he has had to go about and do what God has called. So he's been traveling all over the nation, edifying and highlighting and bringing the significance to the importance of the education of our young people. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share with you our Christian hero today, and that is none other than Dr. Lonnie Edwards. And also, Dr. Edwards is the Executive Director for DeKalb County Public Schools. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Lonnie Edwards, how are you, my brother?
How are you?
I'm superb.
I'm real honored to be here.
Good. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
Minister Womack, I'm proud to be here.
The pleasure, again, is ours. Now, let's quickly get to this. Now, we've talked quite a bit on a number of accomplishments, a number of activities. And one of the things I've learned about you, first of all, is you're probably one of the most humble brothers I've met.
Thank you.
Even when we talk on the phone, it's like, hey, here's Lonnie, know, and it's not doctor. You've never made me or asked me and even refrained from. And I can appreciate that because that is the character of a hero and a Christian hero at that.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Lonnie, you've been in education for over, I don't know how long. If you could just tell us, exactly how long have you been an educator, and why did you choose the field of education?
Thank you so much for that request. It is a real honor for me to respond.
Yes.
I've been in education now. This is my 31st year.
Wow.
And it has truly been an unrealistic kind of commitment, and yet one that I am so proud of. I decided on the field of education. It was basically my third choice. The first choice, I just knew I was going to be an athlete.
Okay.
I was going to be Will Chamberlain or Elgin Bailey. So you can tell about where my age is if I'm calling those heroes in terms of
I know them well.
Yes. The other is that I was going to be a medical doctor.
Yes.
I was my mother's promise to be a medical doctor.
Okay.
And my athletic career was going well. I ended up making Who's Who in America.
Okay.
And immediately I thought I was going to the pros. So I did. I went to the Chicago Bulls and got cut from the team. And obviously I had also considered teaching as a career. And I got prepared to teach. So once the athletic stint was over, I immediately returned to the field of education. And I took education because it was, in my opinion, the first year, a good thing to do. Good because, one, my mother was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher, and my uncle was a teacher. So I had some role models that I respected, and I thought teaching was an honorable profession. My fifth year in teaching, I thought it was an excellent thing to do because I'd begun to see the results of what impact I could have on the developmental minds of young people. And the 10th year and beyond, I was convinced that it was the best thing to do because the child, as we know, is the only product by which a responsible adult can be made. And I found myself being able to encourage young people to be successful, encouraging them to expand beyond their own individual horizons. And it allowed me to feel a contribution that was not only a choice, but a divine reason to be there. And so from that day to this 31st year, I've been honored to be an educator.
Wow, wow. And I know all the young people are blessed to have you, Doc. And I tell you, here now we're in the interview, and I'm like spellbound here. It's like, what's my next question? I mean, it's so intriguing. Right. However, Doc, now, let me ask you now, you say you when you went into the field,
yes.
It was something that was given to you, and each year it became more of a reality that this is where you need to be and should be.
Right.
What would be in your consideration, the ultimate mission, once you knew that this is where I'm supposed to be and I'm happy that I'm here, what became your ultimate mission in the field of education?
When I discovered that the child was no longer just a product to work with, but the child is our future.
Yes.
When I discovered that our future was contingent upon me and others of us, others of those in education, to provide a youngster with the best possible education we could, not only for him, but for all of us, to know that the child was our future. And once I took a good look, I was more than committed to believe that not only was it the best job, one of the best assignments in the world, is to take on an assignment to make tomorrow and tomorrow's a better place through the development of young minds. It became more of a conviction. It became a mission and a real purpose of my individual life. So my challenge then was not so much to teach them or to explain things to them or to demonstrate things to them, but to inspire every child to be the best that he could be on the basis of the fact that it is within our child population that we can see promise for mankind.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, Doc, you've been in this field for over 30 years. Now, exactly, I know we've seen a lot of changes. Now, is it more difficult today in this arena, teaching the youth, or was it more difficult back then? And if so, what's the difference between the two concepts?
Well, the spheres of influence have changed now compared to when it was, let's just go back 50 years ago. 50 years ago, there was a study conducted by the University of Michigan to determine those influences that influence the behavior of young people. Number one, the sphere of influence was the home. The child came from the home, and the parent was in control of the home. So that was one sphere of influence. Number two, the school. The school was the place to go. In fact, youngsters longed for an opportunity to get education because they was encouraged by their parents. Three, the church. The church sat right in the center of the community, governing the behavior and the moral standards for the entire community. And number four, the child had some influence about what he wanted to do. But then finally the TV was the last force that sought to influence the behavior of the youngster. 50 years later, here we are, 2001, 2002. The spheres of influence have changed now. Number one, the sphere of influence is still a home. But the government inside the home has been decaffeinated to the extent that it is not as strong as it used to be. Because our social public policies have minimized the government of the parent. Therefore, the child, in many respects, have a lot more government in his hand than the parent. Number two, which once was the school, is the television. The child spends more time watching the television now than ever in history. A recent statistics that says that by the time a child reached age 15, he would have already watched 18,000 hours of television, compared to 11,000 hours in school, and possibly 3,000 hours in church. So our social parameter is way out of portion. Number three, which at one time was the church, is not a child. The child is in total control in many respects of what he wants to do. Number four is the school, and number five is the church. So in a period of 50 years, all of the spheres of influence that control the behavior of the child, that causes our job to be a little more complicated than it is, has changed tremendously. So our youngsters having too much television opportunities.
Yes.
And what's on television now is amazing.
Right.
And how much time they spend on it makes it complicated for the parents to control their behavior, as well as for us to find continuous strategies and I guess ways of dealing with inappropriate behavior. Nevertheless, we're talking perhaps about 5% of our youngsters that influence to that degree. Nevertheless, their influence have a significant influence on their peers. So we have an ever-challenging assignment to educate youngsters. And with that, we've done a good job. We're still seeing teachers coming, lawyers, doctors, dentists. We're still seeing TV personalities. So we've done a pretty good job still.
Wow, wow. I tell you, you know, I know I have my questions, but I just threw the cards away. I mean, it's just it's coming now from what I understand, believe, feel need to be asked. Because, yes, we can't rewind the clock. Yes, society has changed. Yes, today is difficult because of the temptations of what the government has done and has taken it out of the school, etc. There's a concept out there now, Doc, that I don't recall the acronyms, but it's really dealing with the option that the young people are there. The government is trying to give parents in reference to where their children go to school. Now, do you think that the problem lies in the school? Is that the problem? Is the problem at home? Is the problem on TV? Is the because if we move them from the school and give them an option to go to one of these private institutions like a church or whatever, is that the answer? If not, what's the answer?
Right. No, I disagree. Obviously, you're talking about the voucher system.
Yes, sir.
I'm a component and an advocate of education. Therefore, I support parents whose conviction is to educate their kid in one area or the other, whether it's in a church school or whether it's in the public or private school. I support I'm an advocate of education. So therefore, wherever we can do it best and with the total support of the parent, then that's where I think a child should get an education. Nevertheless, the question is, does cross-district, cross-county, cross-state improve the quality of education? No. That's an individual effort that must be decided by the parent and the child. And I think no matter where you send them, the bottom line will still be he will have to do what is necessary to be a productive contributing citizen, or to be a good student. He will still have to study. He will still have to discipline himself under the parent's jurisdiction and the government of the school in order to be successful. So sending him to one direction or the other does not improve education or the quality of education. It's a byproduct of some other variables. However, if there are not resources, if they are not there, then obviously we should provide the resources for the child. However, it's a lot of other social variables that interfere with a child getting the best education if we got to send him 30 to 40 miles from his individual home to get educated. So the ultimate is to make the child's environment at home and in his community to be the best it possibly can and to provide all the educational resources to eliminate any possible variable of him not being able to get a good education.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I know that the hand of God had to reach down, touch your forehead when you came up with this superb title for the book that you wrote, which is entitled The Teacher's Touch, Reaching Beyond the Boundaries. My brother, that's too deep. Tell us a little more about that book and the concept.
Thanks so much. In fact, I've just completed a book, A Teacher's Touch, Reaching Beyond Boundaries. This book was, I was inspired to write it after my first year of teaching. And my first year of teaching in 1971 in the CAB schools, I was the first black male teacher at this particular school where the student body was 98% white. So there I was in this particular environment. And I taught reading, I taught science, and I coordinated the entire physical education program for all the children, grades K through 7. And while there, my first year, I discovered a young white girl born without fingers.
Okay.
And by the discovery of this, made it a very challenging situation.
Yes.
In fact, I discovered her in a physical education class.
Okay.
And once I discovered her there, I had to find out how I could work with her to help her to move from her inhibited social environment to get into an environment that was global and to make her just as much of a vital part of the class as all of the other students. In doing so, she came out of her shell.
Okay.
She ended up being productive. She learned how to square dance. In fact, that was the unit I was teaching at the time.
Okay.
And she learned how to square dance. Her name was Nancy.
Okay.
And Nancy learned how to square dance. She learned later how to play the piano without fingers. And she ended up typing 65 words a minute.
Wow.
She later in life wrote the Sally Jesse Raphael show 25 years after that experience. I met her at 5th grade, so she wrote Sally Jesse Raphael. Must have been in 1995, so they invited us to New York. I was on the national TV talk show with Nancy.
Yes.
And with Nancy's physical disabilities and the fact that she thought so much of her teacher, who she claimed that made the greatest impact on her life.
Yes.
And once we had met on the national television talk show, I came off thinking, what else?
Yes.
You know, what else?
Yes.
I realized that that was a divine move of God to have allowed a seed to be planted that deep in the heart of a young student that many years and allowed it to come to fruition at this particular decade. So what we decided at the time, my wife and I, we sat down and we thought that it must have been something else, associated with this. So we could never tell the story completely.
Yes.
So I sat to pen the words.
Yes.
And as I began to do so, we looked for a topic. And I realized that my relationship with this young student, encouraging her to be successful, that it was a teacher's touch, reaching beyond boundaries to encourage her to come into the world of reality to be productive and contributing. And as I think about it often, I realize that so often teachers are such special, individuals. We reach daily beyond the boundaries. Social problems, physical disability problems, or youngsters with educational, problems, and those boundaries are there. And for teachers to be committed to reach beyond those boundaries, bring youngsters into the fruition of a possibility to be productive, contributing citizens.
Beautiful.
So the book, A Teacher's Touch, is one that is God-given, one that I'm certain that will make the difference in the lives of those who read it.
Wonderful, wonderful, because you really just never know, and especially teachers. I mean, they plant seeds every day. And we think that those seeds sometimes are planted in vain.
That's right.
However, here it is, 25 years later.
That's right.
And we watch how that flower has blossomed.
That's right.
And we were talking earlier, Doc, in reference to some of the things that have happened with this story. And I told you how powerful this story is. And that's one of the reasons I know they flew you out there. And then I think someone has come to you and spoke to you something about a possible movie. Talk to me, Mr. Movie Star.
Yes, well, Showtime, has signed a contract with us to do a movie on the story, A Teacher's Touch.
Okay.
So we anticipate that being something we just look forward to. And my assessment is that God is trying to make sure that he sends a very positive message about what teachers are about. While I'm grateful that I am the one that has been touched to be an advocate for what teachers are like, I realize every day that teachers do make a difference. So this student, in my assessment, stopped and sent a very positive message to the world to say that teachers make a difference. Students do appreciate what we do, and that students can be successful if we encourage them. And then finally, there is no boundary that would do anything about the area of relationships. So while she was a white student, while it should matter, but it does say human relations far exceed race relations in our arena of educating young people.
Okay.
But the other things have happened. I am a mentor now of a number of young people here. We've organized a foundation, Edwards Miller Foundation.
Okay.
So we provide scholarships for post-secondary training for young people who are physically challenged. And right now we have about 8 students that we have provided scholarship opportunities for, and they have attended. They're attending now Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Emory University, Tuskegee, and there's 1 or 2 others, but by and large, the involvement and the evolution of what took place back here in '96 has perpetuated the book and all of the other. And as you mentioned, Minister Womack, it was a seed planted long time ago that God's divine hand, was over. And as a result of it, now we see something else coming from it that sends a positive message to our society, our teachers, and our young people as a whole.
All right, that's beautiful, Doc. Let's look at this more from a concept realistically, because I think sometimes, we think about what's going on in the school system, but if we're not in the school system, we really don't know. And it's really challenging these days. I know when I was a substitute teacher at one school, I remember a youth, and I had read a few stories, so, it didn't take me long to be convinced of reality. And I was talking to this young student, trying to straighten him out, and he evidently had some issues, some problems, emotional, whatever. And for some reason, he would not hear my voice. And I said something to him. He said, "Man, don't you know I'll go home and get my mama gun and come back and shoot you?"
Yes.
He left, and I left right behind him. All due respect.
Yes, right.
I guess I put it out like that, Doc, to ask you, what do we do, or what can you share to the teachers who are feeling burnt out? Now, not to use this particular student as an example of all our wonderful students, but we know that society has pressured certain issues in the hearts of our young folk in certain categories. What do we do about teachers' burnout, Doc?
Yes, number one, teachers must never give up. They will confront a small percentage of young people who makes bad decisions and who's influenced by media or some things that they've heard, one thing or the other, and they practice self-government. We don't have a large number of youngsters that fit in that category. Therefore, they must know that the challenge will ever be before them. I recall teachers being challenged during my years of school. And obviously, they had some of the same statements to make. And nevertheless, the teachers didn't give up on us. And had they given up on us, then it downsized the possibility of making the world a better place, because teachers are great individuals and they must never give up. Number 2 is when they discover that type of behavior in a youngster, they must begin to treat that issue. And it can be treated working with the parents, the social, relations that we have within inside of our schools, our counselors, administrators, and making sure that we can minimize what might be issues that they are confronted with that they don't know how to govern or control. And we do have youngsters who behave in a difficult way. Nevertheless, I would say to every teacher, don't ever give up. On a youngster or the potential of making other children better because of one bad situation. Now, we've all had some situations that was not as positive, and yet giving up shouldn't ever be the thing we consider, because our children's children, and even us need teachers to continue educating. For me now, the doctor, the nurse, the dentist, all those individuals that teach us, because children got to keep coming. And the teacher is the only profession where we can say we train all other professionals. And in this stage in my career, I'm very comfortable in knowing that we have some good doctors out there.
Yeah, how about that?
And I'm looking for them now, and good nurses. I'm looking for them now.
Exactly.
That they will come. But the idea of allowing one inappropriate situation to cause our teachers to change their careers certainly wouldn't be in the best interest of mankind.
Yes, true
and
that.
our society as a whole.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Even the word says every teacher needs a teacher.
Every teacher
needs a
That's
teacher.
right.
And I guess we have about 3 minutes left,
Yes.
Doc, and so I know this interview is gonna go by real fast, and we're gonna
Right.
get half the questions out. But I wanna do something for the parents, because I know that we oftentimes don't know why some of our children, that may have some problems interacting in the school system,
Yes, right.
interacting with associates. So for some reason, they're always getting a call from the principal.
Yes.
They find out the youngster is in the suspension, whatever.
Yes.
What can you share with the parents that are trying to figure out, what do I do for and with my child to help my child in this situation?
One, parents must encourage the youngster to believe in adults,
Yes.
to respect adults.
Yes.
Those kinds of things are taught at home.
Yes.
And they must also encourage their children to believe that adults are going to be fair with them. And they can never take a position with their child, because if they do, they cause their child to further widen the gap of their respect for an adult.
Awesome.
It is often said that it takes a village to raise a child. So the parents must turn within to the community, to the church, and make sure they carry their kids to church.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, make sure they go to church, because that line of government teaches them things that we can sort of manage when they get to school. They need to know how to obey. They need to know how to be respectful to adults and their parents. While it's said it takes a village to raise a child, I must acknowledge that it takes a family to train them.
Wow.
And those kinds of things cannot be separated and cannot be, orchestrated or given to somebody else. The training part is our responsibility. As individual parents, let's make sure we teach them how to say things, teach them how to respect others, teach them how to respect his teachers, and teach them how to expect to be successful.
Wonderful.
Those are the kinds of things that I think parents can help us do, and our children will be productive, contributing citizens now and in the future.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You all, what can we say? This was a well-needed interview. As a matter of fact, we're going to have Dr. Lonnie back simply because, my goodness, it's a blessing. Until next time, we want to let you know God has been good to us, and he's consistently blessing us, and through us, we hope to continue to bless you. Dr. Edwards is, again, a gift, and we pray that you young people would hear this deep message, and parents always know that there are persons that are caring and loving. This is Grace in Motion. God bless you until we see you again. Again, we love you. Dr. Edwards?
Thank you. It's been my real pleasure. And may God bless you.
You too, my
brother.
Thanks so much.